The city was broken. Neon signs flickered over cracked streets, their colors bleeding into the misty air. Hollow boards buzzed with half-dead lights, showing prices no one cared to pay anymore. Crowds shuffled through the market square, heads low, faces hollow. It was a place where the weak were forgotten, where the strong only looked at what they could take. And in the middle of this world of dust and noise stood a human soldier. Tall and silent, his armor was scratched but strong, his boots heavy against the metal ground. People moved out of his way, some with respect, others with fear. He did not speak, he only watched, eyes scanning like someone always ready for war. But it was not the market that stopped him. It was a voice, small, desperate, almost breaking. "Please, human," the voice said, trembling like glass in a storm. The soldier turned, his eyes falling on a child, not more than 10 years old. The child's skin was pale green, thin as paper, ribs showing through, eyes large and wet, holding fear but also hope. Behind the child stood a woman, her mother, weak. Shoulders bent, clothes torn, she tried to pull the child back. But the child stepped forward again. "My mom can cook, clean, and obey," the child whispered. "Just give us shelter." The crowd laughed, a cruel and sharp laugh that cut like knives. "Look at them," someone sneered. "Broken things begging for scraps. Not worth even a credit," another spat. The woman lowered her head, shame burning in her eyes. She whispered, "Please stop," to the child. But the words carried no weight. The child only looked at the human, waiting for an answer. The soldier did not speak. Not yet, his face was stone, unreadable, as if carved by battles and loss. But his eyes stayed on the child, steady, unblinking. The marketplace grew quiet, the laughter fading into whispers. Everyone wanted to see what the human would do. Would he walk away like the rest? Would he mock them too? Or would he take the offer and use them as slaves like so many others would? The woman trembled, clutching her thin shawl. Her body was weak, but her pride was weaker now. She had already sold everything she had, and still she had nothing. This was her last chance, her last plea, and it was in the hands of a stranger. The human's shadow stretched long in the broken light. He stepped forward, slow and heavy, until he stood before them. The child lifted its face, eyes shining with hope, but also terror. One wrong word, one cruel smile, and their lives would end in despair. The soldier crouched, his armor groaning with the movement. Now his face was closer, his scarred jaw, his steady gaze. He looked at the child, then at the mother. Neither spoke. The silence grew thick. The crowd leaned in, waiting for his judgment. The child whispered again, softer this time, "She can obey. We can obey. Just don't leave us outside." The soldier's jaw tightened, but still no words came. His hand lifted slowly. Reaching out, the child flinched, expecting a strike, but instead, the soldier placed his hand gently on the child's shoulder. The weight was heavy, but the touch was not cruel. The mother gasped, eyes wide. The crowd muttered in confusion, their whispers turning sharp. "Why waste on them?" someone hissed. "They're nothing," another barked. But the soldier ignored them all. He stood, straightened, and motioned with his head. "Come," he said, his voice deep and quiet but full of command. The child blinked, unsure. The mother shook her head, afraid. But the soldier turned and began to walk. Not looking back, the crowd parted before him. Angry, confused, but none dared block his path. The child grabbed the mother's hand, pulling her forward. "Come on, Mom." He said, "Come." And so they followed, steps uncertain, hearts pounding. The marketplace behind them erupted in whispers and scorn. Some laughed, some spat, some cursed. But the soldier never turned. The woman's eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. The child clung tighter, as if afraid the human would vanish if they let go. For the first time in years, hope flickered in their hearts. But hope was dangerous in a world like this because kindness was rare, and it often came with a cost. The mother knew this. The child feared it, and yet, as they walked behind the human, they could not stop. The first step had already been taken. The first thread of fate already tied. The soldier did not speak again, but his silence carried more weight than the crowd's jeers. Behind him followed a broken mother and her brave child. And though none of them knew it yet, this moment would change everything. The night was colder than the day. Wind cut through the broken streets, carrying the smell of smoke and metal. The soldier walked ahead, his steps steady, the sound of his boots echoing. Behind him, the mother and child followed, their feet light and unsure. They did not know where he was leading them. They only knew that no one else had said the word come. The humans' quarters were not grand. It was a small shelter, half buried in the side of a steel wall. The door groaned as he pushed it open. Inside was dim light, broken furniture, and the scent of oil and iron. It was not a palace, but compared to the streets it was safety. The child stepped in first, eyes wide. There was a bed, a stove, a table with scratches from years of use. To them it looked like treasure. The mother hesitated at the doorway. Her hand clutching the side frame, she whispered, "Why are you helping us?" The soldier said nothing. He only set down his weapon against the wall and removed his helmet. His face was worn, jaw rough with scars, eyes dark and calm. He poured water into 2 cracked cups and pushed them toward the mother and child. The child grabbed one, drinking so fast it spilled down the chin. The mother held back, eyes never leaving the man. "You don't owe us," she said, voice shaking. "You don't even know us," the soldier finally spoke. "I don't need to know," he said, his voice like stone rolling. The mother flinched at the weight of it. The child whispered softly, "He's different." "Mom." They ate in silence. The soldier's rations were small, dry food with no taste. But to the mother and child it was a feast. The mother tried to hide her tears as she chewed. The child smiled for the first time in months. Later, when the child slept on the floor beside the stove, the mother remained awake, sitting in the corner. Her mind was heavy with questions. Why would a human, a soldier, risk himself for them? She knew the rules. Aliens like her were not wanted. Not trusted, not kept, and yet here they were, in his shelter, breathing warm air. Her thoughts broke when the soldier spoke again. "You are not begging for yourself," he said, eyes on her. "You begged through your child." The woman froze. Unable to answer, the soldier leaned back, his gaze steady. "That means you still carry hope." She lowered her eyes, her voice quiet. "Hope is a dangerous thing," she whispered. "It breaks you faster than hunger." But the soldier only nodded, as if he understood. His silence pressed against the room like a weight. The mother hugged her knees and closed her eyes. Sleep finally pulled her down, though her fear never left. Morning came with the sound of shouting outside. The market square was alive again, but this time the voices were sharper, angrier. Rumors had spread. Rumors about the human who took in aliens. Men gathered near the shelter, whispering curses, spitting on the ground. They pointed, they sneered, their words like venom. The child pressed close to the mother. Trembling, "Mom, they know," the child said, voice thin as paper. The mother held the small shoulders tight. She looked at the soldier, her fear plain. "They will come for us," she said. "You should send us away before they hurt you." But the soldier only tightened the strap of his armor. He stepped outside, his shadow falling long in the light. The crowd hushed when they saw him. His hand rested on his weapon but did not draw it. His voice cut through their mutters. "They are with me," he said. The words were simple, but heavy like chains on stone. The men in the crowd exchanged looks. One spat on the ground, another cursed, but none dared step closer. The soldier's eyes burned like fire, warning them all. After a long moment, the crowd scattered, but their whispers lingered in the air like poison. The mother's hands shook as she closed the door. She turned on him, her voice breaking. "Why would you do this?" she cried. "Do you want to die for us? Do you want them to kill you?" The soldier's reply was calm, almost cold. "Because no one else would." The child stared at him. Wide-eyed, the mother's breath caught for the first time. Someone had chosen them not for use, not for gain, but simply because he would not abandon them. That night the child could not sleep. Every sound outside made the small body jump. The mother sat awake too, whispering prayers in a tongue older than the city. The soldier cleaned his weapon in silence, his hands steady, his mind far away. But his eyes always drifted toward the mother and child, as if making sure they were still there, still safe. The mother realized then that his silence was not emptiness. It was strength, the kind that did not need words. But strength came with danger, and danger was already circling closer. The child whispered into the dark, "Mom, do you think he'll keep us safe?" The mother held the small hand, eyes heavy with worry. "I don't know," she said softly, "but I think he's the first who wants to try." The days inside the shelter passed slowly. The mother cleaned quietly. Using rags she tore from her own clothes. She fixed small things with her thin hands, bent hinges, loose wires, broken tools. The soldier watched in silence, never asking but never stopping her. The child explored corners, touching things with curious eyes, memorizing every detail. Food was short, rations thin and tasteless, but the mother took scraps of roots from the market trash and boiled them. With spices she carried hidden in a small cloth, she made meals smell warm again. The child laughed when the scent filled the room. The soldier paused in his cleaning, surprised by the comfort for the first time in years. His shelter smelled like a home. The mother moved with quiet skill, every action careful, as if she had once known a better life. She mended his torn sleeve, her fingers swift. She organized his supplies in neat rows, sharper than any soldier's kit. The human studied her, wondering how such order survived in someone treated as broken. The child too showed strange talent. While the soldier checked maps, the child leaned close, eyes scanning. "Your routes are wrong," the child whispered. "You marked 2 paths closed." "But they're open." The soldier frowned. "How do you know?" The child pointed, tracing patterns on the map with a small finger. "I see the signs on the walls outside, the symbols they paint." "It means safe for now." The soldier said nothing, but his gaze softened. This was no weak child. This was a sharp mind, one that saw what others ignored. Outside, whispers grew louder. The marketplace buzzed with talk of betrayal. "Human took in aliens," they hissed. "Shameful, dangerous," others spat. Men spat near his door, some threw stones at the wall. But none dared face him directly, not yet. Inside, tension thickened. The mother noticed the soldier sharpening his blade longer each night. The child saw how he set his boots near the door. Ready for sudden steps, danger was circling. Closer and closer. One evening, the mother sat across from the soldier, her hands folded, her eyes tired but steady. "You should not keep us here," she said softly. "They will punish you. They will turn against you." The soldier looked at her. His silence heavy, finally he spoke. "Do you want me to send you away?" The question cut her. She lowered her eyes. Her lips pressed tight. Her heart wanted to scream no, but her pride, broken and bruised, could only whisper, "You don't deserve the burden." The soldier leaned forward, his scarred hands firm on the table. "You are not a burden," he said. The words struck harder than any weapon. The mother froze, her breath shaking. No one had spoken those words to her in years. The child, awake in the corner, smiled quietly. For the first time, the world felt less cruel that night. The soldier left to patrol. The mother cleaned in silence. The child dozed beside the stove. Then came the knock, hard, sharp, unfriendly. The mother froze, her heart racing. The child's eyes snapped open, wide with fear. Voices hissed through the door. "Human soldier, come out, we know you hide them. We will drag them out if you don't give them up." The mother grabbed the child. Pulling close, she looked around the room. Searching for escape, there was none. Only steel walls and one heavy door. The soldier returned before the door was broken. He stepped inside, his eyes flashing as he saw them cower. He knew what waited outside. He reached for his weapon. The mother shook her head, her voice sharp for the first time. "No, if you fight them now, they will kill you." Her words carried command, surprising even herself. The soldier paused, his hand frozen. The mother's mind raced. She reached for a small tool, a broken wire coil she had fixed days before. With swift fingers she twisted it, making it into a lock seal. She jammed it against the door, sparks flashing. The door sealed shut just as fists pounded harder from the other side. The child pressed close, whispering, "They will burn us out." The soldier looked at the woman, surprised. "You think fast," he said. The mother's voice was steady. "Because I've been hunted before." The pounding outside faded. Curses thrown into the night, but the threat was not gone. It was only delayed when silence returned. The soldier sat across from the mother again. His eyes searched her face. "You are not weak," he said. She laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "Everyone else saw me as broken." The soldier's gaze did not waver. Everyone else was blind. The child leaned against the soldier's side, tired eyes closing. The mother watched as the human let the child rest there. Her heart tightened. Torn between fear and fragile hope for the first time, she wondered if this human's choice was not madness but destiny. Morning light bled weakly through the cracks of the metal roof. The child stirred first, rubbing tired eyes. The mother was already awake, her body tense, listening to every sound outside. The human sat near the door, armor strapped, weapon cleaned, his silence heavier than ever. There had been no rest, not really. All three of them had felt the weight of the pounding fists from the night before. The market would not forgive, and whispers carried faster than fire. By midday, the whispers became boots, heavy, trained, organized. Not angry citizens now, but soldiers. The human's own kind, armored like him, carrying authority like blades. The knock came sharp. Controlled, not fist this time, but command open soldier, a voice ordered. You are charged with sheltering outcasts. Hand them over. The child clutched the mother's arm, fear flooding wide eyes. The mother's lips trembled. She turned toward the soldier, her voice breaking. Please, let us go. If they find us here, they'll kill you too. The human rose slowly, his body calm but his steps heavy. He opened the door and light poured in. 5 soldiers stood outside, weapons slung, eyes cold. Their leader stepped forward, his voice sharp. You dishonor your duty, human. You keep worthless aliens in your home. The crowd had gathered too, faces eager, some hungry for violence, others waiting for a show. The child tried to hide behind the mother's torn shawl. The mother stood frozen, ready to be dragged away. The soldier at the door did not move aside. His body filled the frame, his shadow long. His voice came low, deep, steady. They stay with me. The words fell like stone. The crowd gasped, soldiers stiffened. The leader narrowed his eyes. You protect them? He asked, his voice mocking. They are nothing, less than nothing. Why throw your life away? The soldier did not blink, his eyes burned as he said, Because no one else will. The mother's breath caught. Her knees nearly gave way. The child stared in shock, never having heard such words spoken for them. The leader sneered. You shame your own blood, he spat. You will answer before the tribunal. He raised his hand, and 2 soldiers moved forward. The child cried out, No, and clung to the human's leg. The mother pulled the child back, tears streaking her face. The human's hand dropped to his weapon. The air turned sharp, the crowd silent, but he did not strike. Not yet. Instead, he stepped forward, voice carrying like thunder. If you want them, you'll go through me. For a moment, no one moved. The soldiers shifted uneasily. They were trained, but none wanted to be the first to test him. His reputation was carved in scars and battles. He was not a man who spoke lightly. The leader's jaw tightened, his voice sharp. You think you can stand alone against your own? The soldier's eyes narrowed, his silence answering louder than words. The crowd's whispers grew. Some laughed nervously, some cursed. But deep in the noise was a ripple of fear. Fear of one human who stood unbroken against all. At last the leader lowered his hand. This is not finished, he said coldly. You will face judgment soon. The soldiers turned away, their boots striking the ground like drums of war. The crowd followed, muttering, shouting, spitting, but none dared touch the human now. When the door closed again, silence wrapped the room. The mother collapsed into the corner, her body shaking. The child sobbed softly, whispering, He didn't let them take us, Mom. He didn't. The human stood still, his chest rising and falling slow. He set his weapon aside, his voice calm but heavy. They will return, he said. His eyes looked toward the child and the mother. You must be ready. The mother raised her face, her tears falling freely now. You risked everything, she whispered. Why? Why us? The soldier's gaze was steady, his words few. Because you are not nothing. Her breath caught again, her hands trembling. No one had said that to her, not once, not since the world had broken her. The child crawled closer to the human, clinging to his leg again. You're not like them, the child whispered. The soldier did not reply, but his hand rested gently on the child's head. A touch firm, steady, unspoken that night. Fear lingered in the air. The mother could not sleep. The child curled tight against her, and the human sat awake by the door. Guarding in silence, he knew what was coming. This was only the beginning. The summons came at dawn. Heavy fists pounded against the metal door. This time it was not anger from a mob. It was official. The voice outside was cold. By order of command, you will face tribunal for treason. The soldier strapped on his armor without a word. The mother clutched her child close. Her face pale, she whispered, If you go, they will not let you return. But the human only met her eyes, his silence harder than stone. He stepped outside and soldiers closed in. This time no hesitation, no fear. Chains clicked against his wrists. The crowd gathered again. Not to throw stones, but to watch. Some cheered, some jeered, others stood quiet, waiting to see if the mighty human would finally break. The mother and child were dragged along too, not as guests, but as evidence. Come, barked one soldier, shoving them forward. They will speak of his crime. The tribunal chamber was cold. Steel walls curved high above, echoing every sound. A long table stretched at the front. Behind it sat 3 judges, their faces hidden in half-light. The crowd filled the benches, whispering, buzzing, hungry for spectacle. The soldier was forced to his knees. Chains clinking, the child cried out, trying to run to him. But the mother held the small body tight, her own knees trembling, her hands cold as ice. The lead judge's voice filled the chamber. You stand accused of treason against your people. You gave shelter to outcasts. You defied direct orders to surrender them. You broke the code of loyalty. The soldier's head lifted, his eyes steady. I broke nothing, he said. The words echoed like thunder. I gave shelter to the innocent. The chamber stirred, whispers rising like waves. The judge slammed his hand against the table. Innocent? He spat. They are worthless, parasites, broken things, and yet you chose them over your own. The mother's hands shook as she held the child. She wanted to vanish, to escape the eyes burning into her, but a guard yanked her forward. Speak, the judge commanded. Tell us what he did. Tell us why he kept you. Her throat closed, words choking her. If she told the truth, they might punish him. If she lied, they might kill them both. Her voice came weak at first. He gave us food, the judge sneered. Out of pity, perhaps. But pity does not excuse betrayal. The child broke free then. Running forward, small hands grabbed the human's arm. Tears streamed down the child's face as the voice cracked. No one else would even look at us. No one else gave us a home. The chamber stilled. Even the judges leaned forward. The child's voice carried more weight than law. He saved us when everyone else said we were nothing. The mother's tears fell. She could not hold back anymore. She lifted her face, her voice trembling but clear. You call us broken, you call us worthless. But he saw what no one else would. He saw we are still alive. And he gave us a chance to be more than dust. The chamber roared with voices. Some shouted in anger, others in unease. The judges pounded for silence. The lead judge's eyes narrowed. You would make us believe this human acted out of mercy? The mother's voice hardened. No, not mercy. He acted out of honor. More honor than the rest of you. For a moment, the silence was absolute. The soldier's eyes met hers, and something unspoken passed between them. The child clung tighter to him. The chains rattled as he rose higher on his knees. His voice deep. I do not regret, he said. If giving shelter to them is treason, then I will carry it proudly. The chamber erupted again. Some soldiers shouted to strip him of rank. Others looked away, uncertain. The judges struck the table again and again. Enough, the lead judge roared. This case will not be closed today. The base will decide your fate after council. The guards moved in. Dragging the soldier back, the mother reached for him. But soldiers blocked her path. The child screamed his name. But the human did not resist. His eyes calm, only his gaze lingered on them. Steady and unbroken. A silent promise that this was not the end that night. The mother and child were locked away in a holding chamber. The child cried until sleep came. The mother sat in darkness, her hands trembling. She replayed his words again and again. I do not regret. For the first time, she felt the weight of hope not as a curse, but as a flame, small, fragile, but alive. And in the distance, alarms began to wail, not for trial, not for judgment, but for war. The sirens screamed through the steel corridors. Red lights flashed across the tribunal hall. Soldiers who had just shouted for judgment now turned in panic. The crowd rushed for the exits, their voices breaking into fear. Outside, the sound of explosions shook the air. The city was under attack. The lead judge slammed his fist on the table. Raiders, he growled. Move! Defend the walls, but even his voice carried fear. The guards grabbed weapons, but the noise outside grew louder. The tribunal was no longer about punishment. It was about survival. The human soldier was still in chains. 2 guards tried to drag him back toward the cells. But the child broke free from his mother and threw small arms around the soldier's waist. Don't take him, the child cried. You'll need him. The guards shoved the child aside, but hesitation flickered in their eyes. Because outside the screams grew closer. The enemy was here, breaking through defenses already. The mother's voice cut sharp. Unchain him, she shouted. You'll die without him, the guards cursed. But the hall shook with another blast. Dust fell from the ceiling, walls groaned. Finally, one guard swore and unlocked the cuffs. The soldier stood, rubbing raw wrists. He picked up a fallen blade with one hand and reached for his rifle with the other. His eyes burned like fire. The mother pulled the child close. Her voice low but steady. Stay behind him. Always behind him. The first wave of raiders burst through the outer doors. Tall, armored faces hidden behind jagged masks. They carried plasma blades, their screams wild and hungry. The tribunal chamber turned into a battlefield in seconds. Guards fired. Raiders charged. Chaos filled the air. The human did not hesitate. He stepped forward like a wall of iron. His blade cut through the first raider. His rifle fired at the next. The crowd screamed and scattered. But the mother and child stayed behind him. Just as she had said, a raider broke through the line. Rushing toward the judges, the mother saw him first. Her eyes darted to the broken lamp beside her. She grabbed it, smashed it against the table. The jagged edge became a weapon in her hands. She leapt forward, stabbing into the raider's arm. The beast howled, turning its blade toward her. But before it could strike, the human's rifle cracked. The raider dropped, smoke rising from its chest. The soldier looked at her, and for the first time his eyes showed surprise. "You fight," he said. The mother's chest rose fast, her hands shaking but steady. "I survive," she answered. And then she grabbed her child and pulled them close again. The battle spilled into the corridors. The soldier led them through fire and smoke. Every corner filled with danger. Raiders burned through steel doors. Scattering survivors like leaves, the mother shouted warnings. Her eyes sharp, the child pointed paths. "Remembering every mark seen before. This way," the child said, pulling at the soldier's arm. "This corridor is safe." "The signs show it," the soldier followed without question. And they reached a supply hall just as the roof caved in behind them. Flames swallowed the path they had left. If not for the child, they would have been ashes. The guards, who had once called them worthless, now fought at their side. One shouted, "Cover him!" Another yelled, "Protect the civilians." But their eyes kept turning toward the alien mother and child. They saw them not as broken, but as allies. In the heart of the base, the enemy breached deeper. The commander himself fell back, blood on his arm. A raider raised its blade to finish him, but the mother acted without thought. She grabbed a steel bar from the ground and swung with all her strength. The blade missed the commander's chest by inches. The raider turned on her, but the soldier's blade struck faster. The beast fell, cut down before it could harm her. The commander gasped, looking at her in shock. You saved me." The mother's breath came hard. She wiped blood from her cheek, her voice bitter but strong. "Even the broken can stand." Hours passed like minutes. The attack raged, but slowly the raiders were pushed back. Bodies lined the halls. Smoke filled the air. At last, silence fell. The enemy was retreating, driven off into the wastelands beyond. The tribunal hall was no longer a place of judgment. It was a grave, a ruin, but among the ruins stood the human. The mother and the child, alive, unbroken, side by side. The commander looked at them, his voice heavy. "You risked everything for them," he said to the soldier. "And they risked everything for us." His gaze shifted to the mother. Then the child. "You may not see it, but today, they proved their worth." The crowd, bloodied and shaken, could not speak. But their eyes told the truth. They had seen. They could not forget that night. The mother sat against the wall, the child asleep in her lap. The soldier cleaned his blade in silence. The firelight flickered over his face. The mother's voice came soft, almost a whisper. "Today, they saw us." The soldier looked at her, his silence steady. Then he nodded once. "Yes," he said. "But tomorrow, they will decide what to do with that truth." The fires from the attack still burned when dawn arrived. Smoke drifted across the ruins of the tribunal hall. The city was scarred but alive, and in that survival was a question. What would be done with the human who had defied his own, and the aliens who had stood with him? The commander called for counsel, not in the broken chamber, but in the open square. The people gathered. Soldiers stood at guard. The mother held her child close, her hands trembling. The human stood apart, tall, scarred, silent. His chains had been cut away in battle, but freedom was still uncertain. The commander's voice carried through the square. "Yesterday, we judged him as a traitor," he said. "Today, he stands as the one who held the line." Murmurs filled the air. Heavy and unsure, the commander's eyes moved to the mother and child. "And those you called worthless," he said. "They fought at our side. They saved lives." The crowd stirred, memories still raw. They had seen the alien mother strike a raider down. They had seen the child guide survivors through collapsing halls. They had seen them bleed, fight, and survive. No one could deny it now. A voice shouted from the back. But they are still not one of us. The mother's head lowered. Shame pressing heavy, the child clung to her arm, tears threatening again. But before despair could crush them, the soldier stepped forward. His voice was deep, steady, cutting through the air like a blade. They are more one of us than any coward who hid. Silence struck the square. Every eye turned to him. He raised his hand, pointing to the mother and child. They stood when others fled. They saved when others cursed. They lived when others gave up. "Tell me," he said, his voice iron, "what is worth more than that?" The words echoed like thunder. The crowd did not cheer, not yet. But the silence was no longer filled with hate. It was filled with thought. The commander nodded slowly. "Then we must choose," he said, "to treat them as outcasts still, or to give them a place." The decision was not made by vote. Not by law, it was made by quiet, shifting hearts, by the eyes of soldiers who had fought beside them, by the voices of survivors who had seen the truth. One by one, heads bowed, voices whispered, "Let them stay. Let them belong." The mother could not breathe. Her hands shook as the words reached her ears. She looked at her child, whose eyes shone bright with tears. The soldier stood firm, his face unreadable. But his gaze softened when the child smiled up at him. The commander spoke again. "From this day, they are not outcasts. They are under protection of this base, of this people. They are home." The mother fell to her knees. Tears streaming, the child cried openly, clutching her. The soldier stepped forward and placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Not as a master, not as a savior, but as someone who had chosen, and someone who had been chosen in return. "You gave us life," the mother whispered. The child's voice cracked as small arms wrapped around his leg. "You gave us a home." For a long moment, the soldier said nothing, but his silence was not emptiness. It was a promise, unspoken but unbreakable. In the days that followed, the mother worked with her quiet skill. She organized supplies, taught others how to stretch food. She fixed what was broken with steady hands. The child ran through the base carrying messages, learning maps. The same voices that once spat now called their names with respect. They were no longer shadows, they were part of the living. The soldier remained as he always was, silent, watchful, steady as stone, but now he was not alone. When he returned from patrol, the door opened to warmth. A mother who cooked meals, a child who laughed freely, a home he had never known he needed one night. As stars burned bright over the broken city, the mother sat beside him in silence. The child slept curled near the stove. She whispered, "Why us, human? Out of all, why us?" He looked at her, his scarred face soft in the firelight. His voice came low, like stone turning into words. "Because you asked," the mother's breath caught. Her heart heavy with gratitude, she lowered her head, whispering back, "And you answered." In the ruins of a world that had forgotten mercy, one human's choice had reshaped everything. One act of defiance had turned outcasts into family. And as long as his shadow walked beside them, they were no longer broken, they were home.